How's everyone doing today? Hope you're doing well, and I hope you're having a great day. If you're unfamiliar with me, my name is Bungle. I like to do whiteboard presentation videos. And today, we're going to be talking about Enlisted, the World War II free-to-play first-person shooter, and a series that I call Tactics. We kind of go and take a map from a game mode that a viewer suggests, hey Bungle, make a video on this. How do I get better? How do I win? And today we're talking about Maisky Forestry, and this is the game mode Invasion. Keep in mind, there's actually three type of game modes in Enlisted. Invasion, which is pretty much like Rush if you've played Battlefield before or whatever. You capture the objective. As you move on through each objective, the attacking team has so many tickets, roughly 1,000. Each time they capture an objective, they get like 200, 300 tickets back. And the defending team, the main goal is to make sure that the attackers use all the respawn points to get their tickets down to 0. And by successfully stopping the attackers from going to capturing the last objective, the defenders win. Now, there's also Conquest, which is just basically capture the objective, kind of like Battlefield. And then there's Assault, which Assault is pretty similar to Invasion. You just capture objectives and you move on to one final objective. Now, going along here, today we're talking about Maisky Forestry Invasion. So what is this? What campaign is this under? This is under the Battle of Moscow campaign. So you have the Germans and the Russians going at it in early World War II. Now, to go through kind of how this map is going to work, I'm going to orient you to my key. So first off, the keys. If you see the black buildings here or whatever, they're buildings. This going across all the way up here, as well as over here, is the railroad. There's also several hills in this map as well. This map is oriented north, as by the north-seeking arrow. There is a river here as well that cuts in between these two hills and the first and second objective. And I'm going to go color key the nation. So Russia will be red, Germany will be blue. And to make sure everyone's here, we break these down in phases, right? Typically how Invasion works, there's usually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas you have to capture, all right? And what I'm going to do to help you understand as a viewer is draw a little flag in each one so you understand, hey, this is where your objective is. This is where you're going to go. So first off, we're going to start off in phase 1. Phase 1 is a little crazy, and the reason why phase 1 is really crazy is because all around this area right here is going to be a lot of wooden blocks, logs, and stuff like that. And the big thing about Maisky Forestry, or the big type of the map, is kind of like a lumber mill next to a railroad, all right? So you get that environment. So if you're driving tanks and stuff, the tanks will get stuck a lot of times on the logs and everything like that. So using tanks in this map, in this game mode, is really hard to do. So you have to be really kind of aware, have that situational awareness of your surroundings. So if you're just playing as Germany, right away, you're going to be spawning in the back, like right near the objective. So right away, it's kind of like a brawl. The Russians are going to be spawning in on this back side here as well, right? So it's basically an all-out brawl. Russians, what you want to do typically, so we're going to go flip, starting off with the Russians. Typically, the Russians want to go and stop the Germans from capturing this middle. So it becomes a fur ball, right? The Russians are here preventing maneuver capabilities of the Germans. The Germans are trying to rush in. And usually, like I said, most German teams are going to try to YOLO, rush in, and attack. So if you're defending as Russia, pretty simple, right? You go and occupy the objectives to make sure they're unable to start capturing it. You can go and set up, let's say, a machine gun nest right here, kind of just get those fields of fire set up. And from there, from there, you can just mow down the Germans as they're coming across. Now, like all attackers, you see a common theme. There's a common theme I reiterated 100 times in all my videos. When you're attacking, or usually the attacker, the key thing that a lot of, winning these objectives like Normandy and stuff like that, in my video, I'll have it listed down below, how the Allies win that one, is always you want to maneuver around your opponents. You want to use spawn points. And once you use your spawn points, your allies will start spawning in on you. Hopefully they understand that, hey, they can spawn closer to the objective that way. And then from there, as the Germans, you start pushing pressure on the Russians. So the Russians are going to be more occupied there. So your teammates that are usually going in the middle are going to give an opportunity, since some of the Russian players, the defenders, are going to get, oh, well, we're getting shot from this side, we're getting shot from that side. They get distracted, and the middle becomes an open opportunity, right? So typically, like, most attacking versions, you want to use spawn point. Engineers are critical. to getting that objective, make sure you're winning. There is foliage around here as well, so if you really wanted to be tactical, you could go all the way around, put a spawn point down here, and come up. But typically, I like to have spawn points as close as possible that can be concealed and covered to the objective. So that's my recommendations. You want to go take the sides if you're the Germans, so you can set up and then kind of pincer the Russians in from there. And like I said, 100% of the time on the team, you're going to get your players that are just going to just rush and yellow the objective. So by doing that, occupying the Russians, you give the opportunity for those players to start capturing. So this is phase one, right? All right, now we're going to go on to phase two. So phase two, this is where it gets kind of tricky, interesting. So the Russians are going to be spawning back here, all right? They got pushed back, they're spawning back there. Germany now, you're going to be starting to spawn where the Russians are at. So you're going to be around this area, right? You're going to be spawning in right next to the river, right in front of it. Now, the thing is that as you noticed before, there's this big river going along here, right? So what does this mean for the attackers? Well, you're going to get drenched and slogged down, and kind of be bogged down too with that, right? Because your soldiers are going to move slowly. Sometimes the bots are going to act weird and stuff like that. So as the Russians, right, if you're defending, a lot of times I see the Russians do is upstairs on the top floor of this building, there's a big window that covers the whole entire area over here. And I've seen flak guns put up in here. I've seen machine guns, and it just mows down. If you set up a machine gun or a flak gun up in that building, you can just mow down any attacking Germans trying to cross the river, right? So it gets crazy with that. Another thing I've seen Russian teams do is that they'll go up here and they'll set up another flak gun or a machine gun nest, and then they just start clobbering, right? They start seeing that fields of fire on that side as well. The thing I've never seen done is using kind of the hill up here or this area around here to deny maneuver capabilities. Which, if you're the Russians, right, you want to usually set up a machine gunner or a sniper up in this window, maybe try to push the Germans back by occupying this building as well. But that's what I typically have seen done. This side is most of the time the Germans will go through, right? So going on the German side, right, you're getting shot at from here and everything like that. Like I said, you can do the YOLO approach, YOLO that way. That's not going to work. It will not work because, one, you have IL-2s or bombers coming down and attacking you, destroying your capabilities and maneuvering across. You're going slow. Tanks are going to get picked off pretty easily by AT guns, etc. It's going to be terrible to go in that direction, right? What you can do, and I've done this before too, is if you set up here, so you can use those hills and covering concealment, build a machine gun nest or build a flak gun. You can kind of shoot where the enemies are spawning in and kind of pick off any, funky shenanigans going on in this way, as well as in the building as well over here with the machine gun nest and the flak gun. If you can set up like gun emplacements on this side, on the left side, over here on the hill, you'll be able to kind of deny those capabilities and stuff that's going on. Now, maneuvering and everything on this side is going to be way harder. My recommendations, like I said, is to go around this way, right? You want to go around here, build a spawn point in this building, or build it around this area, right? If you build a spawn point in this area, then you'll be able to have your allies start coming in and start swarming this building. Because, like I said, the Russians are going to be spawning on that side. So you really have this whole area to maneuver freely, get inside that spawn point, and start just causing havoc for the Russians. Now, we're done with phase two, right? Pretty simple. If you're the Germans, you want to take this way. If you're the Russians, these two areas are key to setting up, but don't forget your flank on your, well, it'll be your left, but the Germans' right. All right, now moving along here. Germans have captured phase two. We're moving on to phase three. Phase three also becomes a furball like phase one was. And the reason why is now the Russians are going to be spawning in on this hill up here sometime, and then, they always spawn in up there, and then they'll be running down here, and you'll see gun emplacements put up over here, anti-tank guns, etc. You'll have snipers up here on this hill, sniping down, or in this building over here. And that building's kind of critical because you can use that as a spawn point if you're trying to push up as the Germans and use that to put pressure on the objective. But typically, like I said, they put gun emplacements up here, which will just start shutting down this area. You'll have snipers providing fire over here as well. Snipers up on that hill providing fire. So there is a clear advantage right now to the Russians, right? Now, if you're playing as the Germans, you'll start spawning in back here and back here as well, right? All right, so now we see the Russians up here spawning and attacking you down here, right? What are we gonna do? Yeah, they got guns set up here, they got snipers up there. What are we gonna do? All right, so typical strategy that I've done and it has worked is, one, if you get a tank over here as well, This is where the paths start becoming clearer. Up to phase 1 and phase 2 is where tanks are kind of useless because they're not really that good for attacking. Defending, they're good, but attacking up here, like playing as tanks, like it's going to be harder just because of all the rubble and stuff in the way. So if you manage, we'll just draw a little tank here, right? Little tank with the gun. If you get the tank set up here, you can start just mowing down, destroying their capabilities over here, and especially if they're setting up like troops and everything over here. And the thing is, your tank will be out in the distance. Your tank will be far away from combat, so they're gonna have to go out of their own way to try to take you out. So there's that. So you have your tank set up there, machine gunning, putting fire down. This gives your allies capabilities to one. The typical maneuver things I've seen is that the Allies will put a spawn point up here. The Germans will put a spawn point up here. They build a machine gun nest. They build a flak gun that starts firing into their spawn. So you get that going on, and then you got Allies rushing into the cap, as well as Allies yellowing this direction, right? So yeah, you can go the long way around and try to go up to the hill, but this is where they're all spawning in, and this is where you got your fires coming in. So right now, that's the objective I've seen. That's how you win it, is having a tank parked there, putting fire into the enemy, getting, knocking them all out, having the gun placement shooting into their spawn, and then putting a spawn point up on this hill so you can charge in along with your typical teammates that are going to just rush right into the objective. All right, that pretty much concludes phase 3. Phase 4 is where it gets a little easier too. As you push on, the Germans start getting an advantage. All right. Phase 4, Allies are going to start spawning in around this railroad track in the back of it over here. And what I've seen typically is that they rush up here, put some snipers up here, and just kind of YOLO right into the objective, right? Now, as a German, you'll be spawning kind of where you're last captured. And what I've seen, of course, is direct furball, running in, YOLOing. I've also seen them taking up the hill here, setting up a spawn point kind of close to the objective. This is where it turns into a furball. This is where I'm going to say again, the tanks start becoming really critical. If you get a tank to move all the way up here and sit in this direction, you can start shooting into their spawn. If you start shooting into their spawn right away, when they start spawning in and everything, they're trying to rush in to stop the capture of the objective, you're putting fire, you're pinning them down and everything like that, it's going to hamper their capabilities to kind of reinforce that objective. So if you got your allies YOLOing in and then getting into that furball, it's going to work out majorly. And this is where our vehicles start becoming really, really important for this phase and this phase as well. Pretty much, if the Germans manage to get vehicles in that position and start firing into the spawn, and as long as troop reinforcement and constant pressure on the objective, the Germans are going to go and win it. Now, as you play as the Russians, right? How do we stop this? And typically this is when the Russian teams start falling apart, right? They start getting clobbered, the morale's going low. So, they can build a gun emplacement, of course, anti-tank gun or whatever to fire at any tanks that are trying to come up the ridge, a machine gun nest up here as well, or a flak gun. If you shoot those down in that direction where the Allies the Germans are spawning in, you have an opportunity to take them out. Now, moving on to lastly, phase 5. Phase 5, if you get to this point, most likely the Germans are going to win, because the Russians are going to be spawning in up on this hill and just charging right into the spawn to stop the constant capture. As the Germans are going to spawn where you last captured, so around this area, you'll just be constantly pushing in. You can have teammates move around, use the buildings up here to build a spawn point and put constant pressure. Again, the tank is critical, because if you set the tank near the objective or close in front of that building over there, you can fire into the spawn. Basically, from phase 3 onward, if you have active, constant tank support as the Germans that are enabling the Russians' capability to maneuver from their spawn, then you'll do well. You will most likely win if you have that coordination, as well as with the constant Timmies that are YOLOing into the spawn. Now, if you're playing as the Russians, right, how are we going to stop this at this point? So this is where it gets crazy, right? You got a whole furball going on down here. You got railroad tracks you can use to build anti-tank guns or machine guns, etc., to stop the Germans from YOLOing in, right? There is that possibility. You can also have snipers up here too to kind of snipe to the spawn. Snipe into they got spawn points, everything set up. But like I said, you want to use your vehicles as well, right? At this point, for whatever reason, Russian players, or the Russian teams don't really have that many vehicles to bring out. Or if they bring them out, they're T-60s, which don't really do much against tanks with 38Ts and higher, right? So at this point, if you can provide fire, deny maneuver capabilities of the Germans, you can just rush into the objective and kind of push that back, deter it, then from there you'll stand a chance. But like I said, it's critical that you not stop the Germans in phase 1, and definitely you have the favor in phase 2. When you get to phase 3, it's kind of when it starts tipping to the Germans' favor, and then onward, it's kind of a snowball effect. So Maisky Forestry is definitely not one of my favorite maps, and the reasoning why is because I don't like the fact that logs are just in the way all over the place and are concrete, so they just stop tanks from moving. So that's why it's kind of, like I said, the phase 1 and phase 2, like tanks are really useless unless you're playing as a defender and you can park a Russian tank right here and just start shooting that way. That's the only time, but everything else, there's just wooden pallets and logs everywhere that provide, like, just hamper the usage of tanks at all. So if we reach this point in the video, thanks for the suggestions, for suggesting this content to do a video on Maisky Forestry. Definitely not one of my favorite maps. Kind of hard, I guess, for a lot of players to play this, just because it plays totally different from a lot of the other maps where usually there's areas for tanks to be used and stuff like that. Like here, no. I mean, if you even play the Conquest version of this map, tanks are totally useless. Like you can't really do anything with them. So this is kind of my recommendations. I've seen Germany win. I've seen Germany go all the way to the last point and capture it and win. So it is possible, it is doable. But like I said with all my other videos, when you play these objective-based games, is that you need really good teamwork and communication. If you got people yellowing into the objective, just bull rushing in and constantly doing that, repeating rinse and repeat, not building spawn points, not playing tactically and stuff like that, then of course you're most likely going to lose. If you're playing as a defender and your teammates are just yellowing the objective too, yeah, that's not going to work, right? Let's use our brain. Let's set up, machine gun emplacements, anti-tank guns. If you place them in the areas where I recommend, and tanks and stuff like that, then you will see that it will start helping you out, helping your team out, especially if all your team watches the video, right? But that's my recommendations. Hopefully this can help you all out. Other than that, I hope you all have a great day. Thanks for sticking around. Comment down for future suggestions of videos. I'll take a look at it. I do consider your feedback into creating content for my channel, so your value is greatly appreciated. If you're new here, consider today possibly subscribing. Your subscriptions mean a lot to me. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm, liking that like button, also commenting down below. But other than that, I hope you all have a great day. Take care.